The Adrian Newey Revolution. Aston Martin's brutal reckoning. March 2024. Silverstone. The most storied designer in Formula One history walks through the doors of Aston Martin's brand new factory. Adrian Newey, the architect of championships at Williams, McLaren, and Red Bull, the paddock whispered the same question: how long until Aston Martin becomes a winning machine? 6 months later, 7 senior figures are being shown the door. Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Sometimes, the only way to build a champion is to tear everything down first. This isn't a story about patience. It's a story about revolution. And Adrian Newey, he's just getting started. When Newey joined Aston Martin, expectations were immediate. Championship-winning cars, instant results, a midfield team transformed overnight. But since his arrival, Aston Martin has continued to languish exactly where they were before, stuck in the midfield, fighting for scraps. The critics came fast. Where's the Newey magic? But they missed the point entirely. This season was never Newey's target. As a designer, there was little he could do to change the fate of a car that had been designed 6 months before he even walked through the door. His vision was always locked on 2026, the biggest regulatory reset in Formula One history. For 6 months, Newey stayed quiet, observing, analyzing, taking notes. He worked with the team behind the scenes, understanding their strengths, their weaknesses, and their problems. And the problems, they were bigger than anyone realized. Because while Aston Martin looked impressive on the surface, new factory, massive investment, Fernando Alonso on the podium 7 times in 2023. The reality underneath was fractured. Team principal Andy Cowell admitted it himself. Every department has grown over the last 3 or 4 years, but have they grown together as a team? Silos, disconnection, different departments pulling in different directions. This wasn't a team ready to win championships. This was a team that needed surgery. And Adrian Newey, he doesn't do gentle recommendations. He does what's necessary. The announcement came quietly at first. Eric Blandine, Aston Martin's aerodynamics director, a man with senior roles at Ferrari and Mercedes on his resume, was being moved out. An Aston Martin spokesperson told the BBC, "We don't comment on internal matters. However, we are going through a technical restructure ahead of the 2026 season." On the surface, a standard reshuffling, but then the numbers leaked. Around 7 senior figures involved in aerodynamics and car design are set to leave their current roles. 7, including Blandin, including former chief designer Akio Haga. This wasn't a reshuffle. This was a purge, and it was happening because of feedback from one man, Adrian Newey. Here's what most people don't understand about Adrian Newey. In the media, he's polite, soft-spoken, almost grandfatherly. You imagine him sitting in an office with a cup of tea, sketching designs, not rocking the boat. But that image? It's completely wrong. If you've read his autobiography or spoken to anyone who's worked with him, you know the truth. Adrian Newey is ruthless, fierce, brutal when needed. He has no fear about rocking the boat when it needs to happen. And Aston Martin, their boat needed more than rocking. It needed capsizing. Because winning championships doesn't happen by being polite. It happens by upsetting people, by making hard decisions, by prioritizing performance over politics. Cowell understood this. He said it plainly. We all knew which areas needed to be improved, but we didn't know how much. Adrian has been able to do the gap analysis by providing the target point. Translation: Newey walked in, saw the gaps, and told them exactly where they were failing. And now, the fallout has begun. But here's where it gets interesting. While senior aerodynamics staff are leaving, Aston Martin is simultaneously bringing in massive new talent. Joe Jack Vano, new chief aerodynamicist. Charles Wood, one of Newey's former Red Bull lieutenants, brought back from Apple to lead simulation and vehicle modeling. Marco Finello, a legend in simulation and artificial intelligence systems. The man who helped develop Ferrari's first driver-in-loop simulator in the late 90s during Schumacher's dominance. This isn't just about removing people. It's about rebuilding the entire technical backbone of the team. And the focus? Simulation. Here's why simulation matters so much. Next season, F1 teams will have 3 preseason tests. Barcelona in late January, Bahrain twice in February. Sounds like a lot of track time, right? Wrong. Teams handling the largest change in F1's technical rules in memory, those tests are barely enough to shake down the car, let alone develop it. Any data collected in late January isn't getting turned into manufactured parts by the Australian Grand Prix in early March. That's not how F1 timelines work, which means the real development? It's happening right now. In the simulators, teams are testing their 2026 cars virtually, finding improvements, validating designs, all before a single wheel touches tarmac. And the better your simulation team, the more faith you can have in your data, the more accurate your predictions, the fewer surprises when you finally hit the track. This is where Newey is making his move. By pushing Aston Martin to invest heavily in simulation and bringing in the best minds in the field, he's building the foundation for 2026 success right now. But there's a cost. Senior staff are leaving. Egos are bruised. The technical department is being torn apart and rebuilt. Some of those departing figures will be moved to other parts of the Aston Martin empire. The WEC Endurance Team, or the Advanced Technologies Division, where former CTO Andrew Green was moved before 2023. But make no mistake, this is Newey reshaping the team in his image. And for those who don't fit the vision, the door is open. So where does this leave Aston Martin heading into 2026? 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, Newey's gamble pays off. The simulation work is flawless. The new technical team gels instantly. When 2026 testing begins, Aston Martin rolls out a rocket ship. Fernando Alonso, now in his mid-40s, gets his long-awaited 3rd championship. Lawrence Stroll's investment finally delivers the glory he's been chasing, and Adrian Newey adds another team to his legacy of dominance. Scenario 2, the transition takes too long. Losing 7 senior figures creates chaos. The new hires need time to integrate. The 2026 car shows promise but lacks consistency. Aston Martin spends another season in the midfield while Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull capitalize on the new regulations. Newey's long-term vision is sound, but the short-term pain is brutal. Scenario 3, the paddock watches and learns. Other teams see what Newey is building and realize they're behind. A simulation arms race begins. By the time 2022 arrives, everyone is caught up. When the real battle isn't about who has the best designer, it's about who has the most cohesive, unified team pulling in the same direction. Because as Cowell admitted, have we got a silo mentality culture? There's more we can do to work together with a pure focus on what we're all here for, the race car. That's the real test, not just the technology, the culture. Will Newey's ruthless approach create a champion? Or will it create resentment that cripples the team from within? Can 7 new hires integrate fast enough to make 2026 competitive? And the biggest question of all, is Adrian Newey still the genius who dominated 3 decades of Formula One? Or has the sport finally evolved past him? One thing is certain, the next 18 months won't just determine Aston Martin's future, they'll determine Adrian Newey's legacy. If you made it this far, you already know. Building a championship team isn't about being the nicest. It's about being the best. So tell me, will Adrian Newey's Revolution succeed? Or is Aston Martin about to learn that sometimes tearing everything down leaves nothing but rubble? Drop your prediction below.